Alright, this lesson is ratios. Ratios are essentially just fractions. In fact, that's a very common way to see ratios. What a ratio does is compare two values, or consistently two numbers, to each other, which is really what a fraction does. So if we see, say, the two numbers 3 and 7. So this looks like a fraction, 3/7. What it's doing is comparing 3 units to 7 units. Or in other words, it tells us that it takes 7 of something in order to get a whole amount, and we have 3 of those. So we have some portion of a whole amount, and we can see what portion that is by looking at the fraction. Well, the ratio is really that. It compares the number 3 and the number 7, which is why sometimes we write ratios as fractions. It doesn't have to be written that way. It could also be written as 3 with a colon and then a 7. This is the same thing. These are identical, just a different way to write it. And then finally, the other way you might see it is sort of in an English format where we just write out 2. So I have 3, 2, 7. And again, that is another ratio. Now, kind of like we do with fractions sometimes where we compare them to see if they're the same value, we do the same thing with ratios sometimes. We'll compare ratios and see if they are equivalent ratios. And ratios are equivalent if the two numbers or the two values on one ratio can be multiplied by the same value to get the two numbers on the other one. So in other words, if we have, say, the ratio 3 to 5, and we're wondering, is it equal to the ratio 15 to 25? And we can see that since it takes 3 times 5 to get 15, and since 5 times 5 is 25, that 3/5 can be multiplied by 5 to get 15 25ths, which tells us that this is an equivalent ratio. And you can see, based on just that experience there, that example there, that your practice in using fractions is going to come in very handy here using ratios. So let's take a look at the example problems and see how these things work.